everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Oh, it should be working now. There we go. Thank you, Tanya, for saying something. I would have gone the whole class if somebody didn't say something. Let me start over. Hello, welcome back to another class. I'm really excited for this class just because it's a very simplistic, easy class to do. And especially if you're new or a beginner, this one should be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to do this. This is also kind of one of our last fall paintings. So I'm soaking up all of the fall before we get into our winter stuff, which I forget every year that usually in the December month, I usually only work the first half of the month because I do want to have some time with me and my family. And then I'm sad because I love doing Christmas stuff, and I always don't get to do as much as other months because I only work half the month, and I always forget that until I'm coming up with what I want to paint for December, and then realize that I get half as many. Anyways, that's, I need to just set a reminder to start Christmas stuff in November. But yeah, I'm excited to paint. So let me know in the comments down below if this is your first time, if you're new, or if you've been painting with me for a while. I love returning folk, but I also love hearing if this is one of your first time paintings. Let's go over a couple things. We have our supplies, including our traceable, and then I also have some other classes going on right now. I'll give you an update on our Cobalt class because we're going to be finishing up next week. And yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is the traceable. This is free for patrons. So if you are a patron of mine and you support at any level, this is a free gift to you. If you're not a patron and you would like access to a traceable, you can, I have that linked down below as well as in the description and the chat. Whenever I do traceables, whenever I do specifically for landscapes and for scenery stuff, I typically don't use a traceable, but I know a lot of people like to have something on their canvas before they start painting because it allows them to, I don't know, sometimes looking at a blank canvas can be really terrifying if you're not used to it. So the traceable not only allows you to get something on the canvas before you start painting to allow you to paint, as well as usually my classes, usually it has a little bit more of detail. So the traceables are really helpful. This time around, it's totally not necessary. I'm not going to be using one. You don't have to use one. I encourage you actually not to use one, and just paint with me. But if you are someone who needs something to help them, I do have that available, even though I'm not using one. I apologize for my coughing. I thought I was going to be fine without a cough drop. I was sick last week, and I'm feeling way better now, but I still have the cough. And I'm really hoping that the cough does not last as long as last time, because last time it lasted like 6 weeks, and I was like over the cough. And it finally cleared up, and then I got sick again. And I'm just like, why? But anyways, hopefully I won't have too many coughing spells throughout the class. So yeah, so that is the traceable. I'm using an 11 by 14 canvas, but if you have another canvas that you would like to use, that is totally fine. The colors today are super simple. I have a mix of yellow, brown, I have an orange out, but I probably won't use it. So essentially your yellow, your red, I have brown, black, and white, and that's pretty much it. I have a green out just in case I need a little hue of green, but for the most part, that's really it. Tanya asks, I have a question. Can I use transparent mixing white to get that misty effect? You can. We're going to be just kind of mixing it as we go. And then essentially at the very end, you can use a wash, or use a little bit of wash and then wipe it off with either paper towel or a washcloth of some sort. You maybe use something that you've used before, so you don't, get it all dirty. I have like an artist washcloth that I'll use for washes, and sometimes, but I'm trying to think of transparent mixing white. Yeah, it's essentially like a wash, but thicker. So, yeah, you could use that. Okay. That's that. Those are the colors. The brushes I will be using is a medium to large filbert, a small filbert, and then I have a couple different round brushes. I have my texture brush, which I like to use for any sort of texture, or clouds or anything like that. I'll have that on hand. And essentially I use it for whenever I'm going to be roughing up my brush. That's my rough brush that I use. And then I have two small round brushes. One's a little bit more pointed, one's a little bit more round. And I like to keep all those on hand. The only different one that we might be using today, or I will probably be using, is a filbert, or sorry, not a filbert, a fan brush. And this is a hog bristle fan brush. So the bristles are very stiff, and you can get a lot of fun textures with that. If you have something with a nylon brush where the bristles are very, oh, that's not what I meant to grab, where the bristles are very, very soft, you're not going to get the stippling that you want, because all of the bristles will just kind of clump together and it won't separate like a fan brush should. Those are helpful for not stippling. But yeah, so I will be using one with hog bristles, and any of the materials that I use I do have on my Amazon list. I have an Amazon shop, so if you it's just like a recommend list, and that's also linked below. So if you see anything that I use here today and you want to go see it, you want to go see the pricing or whatever, you can go on my Amazon shop and find it there. Just a really easy way to find the things that I use in case you want to use them as well. And then I have a palette knife for mixing colors, and then a palette knife scraper for cleaning off if I need a little bit more space. So those are the materials, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to go over a couple classes that are currently going on right now, or past classes. Last week, if you like fall stuff, last week we did this one. This is a free class on my YouTube. It's the last one that we did last week. So if you like this, I love all the colors of this one. So if you liked this, that is free on YouTube. Feel free to go and paint it. In my Patreon, I will be painting this month's class tomorrow. So you won't be able to see it until next week, or if you're on my Facebook, you'll be able to go view it there, which there's a link to my Facebook in case you are not on my Facebook. It's where I post probably 95% of everything. This is what we painted last month. If you join this month, you will have access to this class and all my other magenta tier level classes, including this month's class as well, which I have yet to paint. I'll be painting it tomorrow, and then it will be available on Friday. And then lastly, let me give you an update for our Cobalt class. For my Cobalt class, which is the $20 tier, we paint every single week. Usually for a month, but sometimes it takes 2 months, and this one has taken 2 months. So we only have one more class left, which is pretty much to do all of the trees. So I'm getting in a lot of tree practice before next week. But yeah, we're pretty much done with everything but the trees. I love how this came out, or how it's coming out. It's not quite done, but there's just so much detail, and I think it's looking great. So yeah, this is kind of the update, the weekly update for my Cobalt class. We're going to be finishing it next week, and then I will share it. I'll share the finished piece next week before our last class of November. Or no, actually not next week. When I say next week, I don't mean next week. I mean the week after, because next week we don't have any live classes because it's the week of Thanksgiving and I'm taking the week off. So there's that. So I'm not sure. I haven't decided whether or not we are painting on Tuesday. I think I'm going to take that day off too. So it'll be the week after, the 28th and the 29th. We will have classes then. But sometimes I like to take off weeks too, which seems counterproductive because a lot of the stuff that I do is like preemptive. So I have to like prepare before I take stuff off. Anyways, I am excited to paint. I hope you are too. Let's go ahead and get started. I think my daughter took my water bottle. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we are going to do is make a slightly tinted white for the background. I like doing this so that because it is a little bit of an overcast painting, and when we paint on white, it's a lot easier to see it if it's slightly tinted rather than painting white on white. At least that's helpful for me. So what we are going to do is we're going to get out our white, our black, and our brown. All right, so I'm gonna take this white. I'm just gonna use all of it because it's for like pretty much half the canvas. And take a little bit of brown and a little bit of black, just tiny, tiny bits, because we don't want to change it too much. All right. So there's that. I want to go ahead and take my largest brush, and the lowest point of this is about 1/3 up. So I'm gonna go all the way down to that point, and I might even go a little bit further. So I'm just gonna start at the top, make sure I got the top and the sides. It's nice whenever you tint white because then you can see where you've painted. But it's like not enough to look not white. So I like to paint kind of in X's to really make sure that all that paint is getting in all of the texture of the canvas. And then once I get all of it on the canvas, I will go across the whole thing and smooth it all out. Really, really long strokes. What's nice about doing this all in one color is that you don't really have to worry about blending. And that's also nice about the pre-mixing the color, is that it's all pre-mixed and you know it's all one color. And you don't have to worry about that either. All right. I'm gonna water down a little bit of my paint. Just put a very thin coat of this on here. All right, so while that dries, let's go ahead and mix together the next part of our paint. So essentially within this tree, forest, tips, treetops, whatever you want to call them, within these treetops we have about, I would say, roughly 3 colors. You have like the darkest part, you have the medium tone, and then you have like the highlights of the sun peeking in and catching the tops, like the treetops. So those are like the 3 main colors that we're going to do. that we're going to create. So let's go ahead and make that dark color first. I'm going to take some black and some brown and some white. And I'm also going to get out my yellow because there is a large hue of yellow in here. And I'm also going to get out my red. Little bit of yellow, little bit of red. And we're just going to see. Essentially, you have the brown. So how I like to think about this is you have the brown, and then you have the yellow, and the red is going to be that orange color, but you do want it dulled out a bit, which is why you add the black and the white, because it's like adding gray. So I'm going to add a little bit more black and a little bit more yellow and red. Okay, so I think this is a fairly good dark color. I'm gonna go ahead and try putting this on the canvas because I have a feeling that it's gonna look a lot different once we get it on the canvas. So I'm gonna take my big brush and I'm just gonna kind of put it over here to the side. Yeah, I can tell that it's a little bit too white, so I'm gonna put in a little bit more of that color. And the colors don't have to be perfect. I enjoy like color matching and trying to get the colors as close to what I see in the picture as possible. It definitely stretches my ability to be able to make a color as it would be in the photo. It's really helpful for when you're doing like portraits and things like that, to be able to color match in that way. But if you're like not that good at it, and or maybe you struggle with it, like this does not have to be exact. These are trees and they are a shade of brown. It doesn't have to be exact. All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of this and add a little bit of yellow, maybe a tad bit of white to it. Okay, this is kind of that lighter bit. And now I'm trying to make the lightest bit, which is the very light part of it. I have a feeling that's darker than I want it to be, but we'll see. Alright, so what we're going to do first is figure out where all of our trees are. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of just figure out where I want my trees, how far up I want them to go. It's probably a little bit too far, but that's okay. Just kind of putting, I do want kind of a gap over here. And I'm going to put in the base of these, and as I bring it down, it's going to naturally kind of fade into the background. Because it's not all the way dry. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch brushes to my small filbert, and I'm going to take my brown and starting at the tip, you're just going to dab. And this is where you can really use whatever technique you want. So you can choose to use a filbert brush, you can use a flat brush in the corner. But when I bring it down, I'm just going to bring it down about halfway, because we'll be layering on trees. And what I love about filberts is that when you press them down, it automatically makes kind of this like covering. Here, I'll show you. Right here, I'll just do it on there and it kind of makes that little curvature. So as I move down, it makes like this like branch-like covering, and it's just so cool. And so I'm just rocking back and forth. I'm rocking back and forth between left and right. And I'm really just focused on the tops of these trees right now. And we'll just keep moving. It's the same process for the whole tops of the trees. And this is a lot of the class, so don't rush it. Don't feel like you need to just get to the end. Like, this is a lot of the class is adding these trees. And not all trees are as full as others. Some might have little gaps of nothingness. hand is blocking how you're painting. Okay, so essentially, let me move this way a little bit. So I have my filbert, and I usually do the top first, and then I'll use the side of the brush just a little bit, like what would be kind of like the corner of the brush, even though the filbert doesn't really have a corner. It kind of does. I use just that little bit, and then I go back and forth, kind of in a pendulum swing. If you've ever painted Bob Ross trees, they are very, very similar. You start at the top and then swing your way down. And depending on if you want the pine needles to kind of stick up, then you'll have your handle on top of your brush, or your handle on top, like pointing upwards. And if you want your bristles and your pine needles to point down, then you'll have your handle pointing down. Wherever the body of the brush, if the body of the brush goes up, then your bristles or your pine needles will go up, and if the body of the brush goes down, then it'll go down. Because sometimes I still have my brush up, but I'm poking it down to give texture down. See how these ones are pointing down and this one's pointing up? It's because I've switched where the body of the brush is pointing. So that's essentially the top. I am gonna go over a couple of these so that they're just a little bit darker. Essentially, I'm looking at where things are. So I want them to get darker as they go down. So I'm going to grab a little bit more black. And I'm going to use a mix of the brown and the black in here. And I'm going to still use the same technique of the stippling. And I'm gonna just make sure that it's dark down here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it all the way down. It's going to be dark in this area. It's also supposed to be dark in this area, so I'm just going to put a little bit more black. Alright, I'm going to rinse this out. And I'm going to get some of this light color, this light brown. And I'm going to use that for these ones right here. But the first thing I'm going to do is take, you can do this either with a liner brush or a palette knife. Totally up to you, whichever you're comfortable with. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in a couple of these just so I can figure out where these are. So I have some direction of where I'm putting some of these. And I'm just using the light white. And you'll probably go over some of these. You'll have to put these back in but for now it gives me some direction about where things are going. So I'm going to use, just to see if I can color match, I'm going to use a little bit of this, the lightest color I have here for some of the tops. And I'm going to add just a little bit of detail to some of these in the back. I will need to get a little bit lighter towards the top. But so essentially you're just doing the same thing except with this lighter color. And I'm going ahead and putting just a little bit of this lighter color on the left side of some of these bigger trees in the background. Not all the way down, kind of only at the tips of them. Alright, so we have a couple here in the foreground. Now with a little bit of water and white, I'm just going to put a first coat of mist on here. Just kind of with just a little bit of water and a little bit of white, just go ahead and put on a first coat of this. We'll put on a couple layers of this. The trick is to not put on too much at once. So that's kind of the first layer. And again, it's just a little bit of water, a little bit of white. And we're gonna do this in layers. Layers is key. All right, and while that is drying, don't forget to do the bottom. Let's go ahead and make our bright color for that front section. For the tops, I'm gonna use yellow, a tiny bit of red, some white, and a little bit of like brownish black. I think it's more orange than I realize, so I'll probably have to do more red. A little bit more white, I think. It's very tan. All right, so I think I'm going to use my fan brush now. And I'm only going to put paint on the very edge of it. And I'm going to try to do it over on this side first. Oh, excuse me. Alright, I'm gonna go back to my filbert and see if I can add a little bit more. And I'm trying to mostly focus on the left side of all of these, because that's where the sun is. Alright, so what I'm doing for the very tips of some of these is I'm going in and doing it only with that brighter color. So I'm essentially re-adding the tips in this brighter color. Because all the tips are in the sun. And that makes sense. Alright, so once you get that, I'm going to go ahead and go back in with some white trunks. Being a little bit more intentional with the trunks now, because I know where my trees are. Alright, you're also going to put some of these in here, up above. Not in all of them, but some of them are kind of poking up. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do another layer of this white. Again, very thin with a little bit of water. I'm really trying to focus on just blending it up. So I kind of blend it up a little bit, and then I will go across the whole thing and blend it that way. And while that layer dries, we're gonna do one more layer. But before we do that, let's go ahead and put in all of our birds. And the birds are a lot of fun. So essentially you'll do a little dot and then little, just little like teardrops going out, whether that's up, whether that's out, whether that's down, that is totally up to you. I am adding a little bit of water to my paint so that it goes on a little bit easier. And you'll add as many as your heart desires. And honestly, I really feel like you can't go wrong with this process. I'm gonna do one more coat on the bottom. I'm gonna focus mostly on the very, very bottom, get in that white coat. Put pretty much full on white on the bottom. And then dip my brush into white, or sorry, into water. I'm gonna brush up. Go all the way across. And there you go. You have your Misty mountaintops, Misty treetops. Technically the bottoms are misty, but but yeah, that's pretty much it. Now you know how to now you know how to do it yourself. And this would look pretty with like any color of trees, really. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That is pretty much the end of our class. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me painting. If you would like to share your work with me, I would love to see it. I have a Facebook community. I just posted it down below. Where you can go in and post your painting. I will take a picture of mine and I'll add it to a album where you can also add yours. You can add yours just simply straight to the wall, but if you want yours to be in the album for like the class, like if somebody were to look it up, it would be in that album and they could see yours too. Donald, I wish we could see your brush on the canvas to see your technique better. Yeah, the angle is a little bit weird this time around. I would just go back. You can always rewind it and go back and kind of see it a little bit better. Essentially, I'm keeping my brush perpendicular. Here, I can show you on a different canvas. Let me show you on here. So essentially, let's say I have my tree trunk, right? What I'm going to be doing, and I guess I should have done this in the beginning because I didn't realize you weren't going to be able to see it very well, but I'm using my filbert, flattening it out, and what I'm doing is I'm taking it, and why is it so blurry? Here, let's see if I can, there we go. So I'm taking it, and I'm doing the tops. I do the tops first, and then I use kind of the edge. I'm using the edge to go back and forth, and I curve it up. You can curve it up, but you'll see that when I put my brush down, it makes a little curve. So with each curve, each brush dab makes another one of those curves, and that's what makes the tree. Now if you wanted to, you could do this tree all the way down, going back and forth, going all the way down, and you can curve up. The other option is to have your bristles go up. So this one, my bristles, the tip of my brush goes on the canvas, and then the body of the brush goes down and creates little markings. If I were to do the same except opposite and put my brush down and then go up, it does the opposite. Why is it so blurry? Sorry. It goes up. So depending on the type of tree you're wanting to do, you could go up. You could have the bristles go up, like the body of the bristles, or you could have them go down. Regardless, I'm trying to keep my brush, for the most part, perpendicular to the canvas, because if it's down, that's what it looks like. But if it's up and it's perpendicular, then when I do it, you get so much more texture with your brush. So those are the techniques that I used throughout the class. So hopefully that helps you if you try it again, or if you're still working on it. I didn't realize that you couldn't really see what I was doing until like halfway through the class, and then I was pretty much already done with all of my trees. But yeah, that's essentially the technique. So hopefully that helps a little bit more, Donald. Thank you for commenting and getting me to do that, because yeah, that's very helpful for people. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you not next week. Next week we have no class, but the week after we have our last class of November, which I am looking forward to. If you are not subscribed to my channel, then you won't know, but we are painting a sunflower in like a vase, which I always like doing flowers. If you're a flower person, then you'll want to be there in a couple weeks. But other than that, we will see you then. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your night. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, guys.